The diamond ring went down the hatch as if it were a peanut.
The way he swallowed it, it was like no big deal. He just went like pop.
52-year-old Ronald Purley had come into Bellman's jewelry shop in Manchester, New Hampshire, asking to see engagement rings. But when handed one, he bolted for the door, only to find he was locked in. And when the saleswoman said, "We want the ring," he swallowed it.
He says, "What ring?" Just like that, like a magician almost.
Police arrived within minutes. Next stop, the hospital. Police had to ask a judge for a search warrant so they could x-ray the suspect. We can't show you the x-ray because it's now evidence. But jewelry store owner David Bellman says the ring was clear as day. Probably looked a bit like this x-ray from a book called Stuck Up, 100 Objects Inserted and Ingested in Places They Shouldn't Be. Instead of being plugged in an outlet, there's a cord in some guy's rear socket, an egg beater, Christmas lights, even a Barbie doll. Swallowed items ranged from a razor to a crack pipe. And who could forget the bank robber who swallowed the alleged hold-up note? At least that had fiber. It took the stolen engagement ring a little more than 24 hours to resurface.
I guess at some point on Saturday morning, he pulled one of the guards aside and says, "I'm ready to produce the evidence."
Police brought it over for Bellman to identify.
Looks pretty darn good, actually.
Good enough to wear.
Well.
Or eat. The $3,200 plastic price tag was still attached, so what do you do with a ring that survived digestion?
We're going to auction it off for charity.
The puns have been unpardonable. We know because we're guilty of punning against an engagement ring that may never lead to I do. In the case of this ring, it's I do. Purley has been charged with felony theft and falsifying evidence. We're imagining a new ad campaign. Bellman's Diamond in the Roughage. Ginny Mo, CNN.
Diamonds are forever.
New York.